off some insights for yourself and just really show what the process is all about. So if we look here sort of at the stages of business growth, it really is the path to maximizing your impact and living the life of your dreams through your business. And we talk about this concept of the path of least resistance, and to us that really just means that we're taking the most effective route to achieve an objective of having the most impact possible through a product. So as we go through, firstly, the objectives of this, we want to guide the understanding of the progressive aims of how we actually build a scalable marketing strategy and what that means. We want to understand why selling products is a much better path than selling just a service, and that is actually the path of least resistance. Help to determine the stage that you're in of the quote-unquote product life cycle. Identify blind spots and the key drivers for your stage, and sort of what the core focus needs to be. So this is sort of the 80-20 that gets, the Pareto principle. So the 20% of things that are going to get 80% of the results. And in this context, it's the 20% of customers to focus on, which is sort of your niche or avatar. And we'll provide some reasons behind that. This is to help you avoid focusing on the wrong things. And ultimately, we want to provide frameworks to guide your ability to achieve product market fit. And we'll put some definitions around that term, product market fit. But effectively, it is when it costs you less to acquire a customer than it does to actually provide the service to that customer, and it becomes self-sustaining and grows. And that is essentially the number one goal of a business who's trying to get beyond sort of the $1 to $3 million mark, and that's the number one objective of our scalable marketing strategy. So to go into this in a little bit more detail, this is the product life cycle. Now, I don't necessarily agree with these dot points down here, but this is commonly what people think of when they think of a product life cycle. And this is sort of more of your traditional MBA style material. Now, where we focus is we sort of like to really re-engineer this idea of a product right back at the beginning. So not necessarily paying too much attention to these points here, but we like to take a lean method and a method of actually sort of achieving real market insights as quickly as possible to help people determine the product that's best used. Now, a lot of the people that we work with are actually offering a commodity or a service, and so we like to go back into this introduction stage. But the sort of life cycles are important to think through because some people might already have a product and it might be in this growth stage. But what we really want to do is make sure that we're really nailing in on the most effective way to sort of grow a product and nailing in on that life cycle. We don't ever really feel like we reach maturity, particularly at the $1 to $3 million mark. This is where up here, revenues, we're talking closer to, I guess, 10 to 50 million typically, depending on the size of the market. And I guess, the competitive side of things is we want to help our customers and our clients that we work with get super niched in what they do. Because when you're niched, it's easier to service the customers and provide a really nice product that suits their needs. And we'll talk about that a little bit through this presentation. So that's effectively just a quick look at the product life cycle and what we're referring to when we talk about that. To set the scene, we sort of talk about, firstly, one of the key models is the 6 core functions of a business. And in the way that we operate, we use a customer journey map, which you can see is how we map things out. So we want to make sure that for the customer that we're working with, the product that we're using to grow is really refined in terms of all of these criteria. We want to know all of these things, and effectively the aim of a client that we work with from getting from, I guess, 0 to 1 to 3 million, typically, about 300Ks when you push beyond sort of the individual freelancer and you start to need a team and start to need to be able to outsource. Again, depends on the product, but that's just a rough guide. And so the number one objective there is achieving product market fit. And so we want people to be able to progress through this marketing funnel, this customer journey. And I think it's the best way to think about the process of the 6 core functions, because this is the functions that a business actually performs for its customer. So if you think about the way a customer interacts with the business, they firstly become aware of that business. They secondly then, once they're aware of it, they start to consider what the business does. They think about is what the business does in the way that it messages things relevant to me? Do I have a problem that I need? Then they begin to evaluate and discover, yes, I do need this, and they compare it to other options. And then they go through to purchasing. If they determine that their pain is greater than the cost of the actual service, or if the pain, is something that they don't want to suffer through any longer, then we have Ascension, where they become a regular client. And if we structure the customer journey really well, and again, this is something that a lot of businesses don't necessarily do. They don't have an upsell component, or they don't have a re-engagement component. They just sell a one-off service and that's it. And that is a real problem, because it costs typically about 5 times more to achieve a new customer than it does to retain an old one. And so, there's some really solid things that can be done around the stages of ascension. And so we've got processes for all of these things, and this is what we talk about when we talk about growth, because it's not just lead generation. Lead generation is not the answer all the time. There's a lot more low-hanging fruit in these stages, and it's much harder for people to get through. That's why it's a marketing funnel, because people naturally start with a lot of numbers here, and over time they drop out because they're probably either not interested or they didn't get captured. And then, we talk about advocacy. Now, typically they talk about 5 core functions of the business, and I've seen people talk about it where they leave out advocacy, but we firmly believe that, particularly for service-based businesses, if you're not getting referrals, then either you're not asking, or you don't have a 10 out of 10 product market fit. A 10 out of 10 product market fit should be a product that every single customer that comes through, they tell at least 2 people, or they tell more than 1 person, so that your viral coefficient allows it to exponentially grow. So we all experienced COVID. If a viral coefficient is greater than 1, it means that it will grow in and of itself, and you won't need to market per se for it to continue growing. And that's the number 1 goal of achieving product market fit, in that the cost to acquire a customer is, as I said, is lower than the cost of actually working with that customer, the cost of goods of delivery. And when we look at the perfect product market fit, the product grows in and of itself, and it doesn't cost anything to acquire a customer. And of course, that's not realistic, because if we have product market fit, then we can spend money on advertising. It will continue to grow, but that's another sort of story. So those are the 6 core functions that we like to focus on, and that's why when we work with a client, we really focus on the customer journey, because we want to make sure that all of these core functions are optimized. We want to make sure that the business is actually delivering a product in the most effective way possible that a business should. And this is real low-hanging fruit that we work with in the initial stages. So this is a more traditional customer journey map, just to sort of paint the picture. I'll allow you to pause that if you do want to look at this in more detail. Also, feel free to Google a customer journey map. And we do have a template. So if you want that template, go into the into the description of this video, and you will see how to get this template for the blank customer journey. Now, we've put this here because this is one of the typical strategies that we use, which is LinkedIn. And why we choose LinkedIn is because it's the most hyper-targeted and the most relevant to business platform there is. And it's a great blend of sort of lead gen and strategy. That tactical and strategic component, which is the branding side for the strategic things. So that's how we go through those 6 core functions, and it's a real key model that we always establish in the beginnings. And the second thing, and this sort of, I guess, I sort of jumped the gun, because the customer journey is really dependent on, firstly, the person that we're serving. Now, how do we determine the person that we're serving? Well, if you've already got a service that you're delivering, we just ask you to do the 80-20 of who are the people that you get the best results with, what is the process you do with them, and we'll talk about this a little bit in a second, but we want to do the 80-20 of the people that you're getting the best result with, and that's how we determine how we're going to design this customer journey and who for. So I'll jump to this really quickly. So the number 1 objective for the $300K to $1 to $3 million mark is sort of knowing your audience, having 1 problem that you solve, 1 audience, 1 key channel, and understanding the pain problem. So knowing the problem in depth, and that's the number 1 focus. So it's 1 product, 1 channel, 1 audience, 1 problem. And we really want to make sure that those things are outlined very clearly. So as part of the resources for this, we've got some outcomes here and the actions that needed to be taken. And to identify the blind spots and the key drivers for your stage, we really want you to understand those steps, list the one problem that you solve, list your one audience, list your one product, and list your one channel. And what do we mean by channel? Channel is the means of distributing a marketing message. Now, we choose LinkedIn typically because we find that it's the easiest way to reach people. So to go back to, so that's the core functions of the business. And then just for some quick, I guess, business fundamentals as well, we talk about 6 key departments. So there's marketing, sales, product, operations, finance, and people. And the reason we talk about that is because we want to focus on sort of one key strategic area in each of those to effectively just guide our thinking in terms of how our business is growing. And I put them in this order, and this is just a graph from a program that I've been a part of, and it's quite useful just to visualize that. And you want to have all of these things sort of settled, and we like to focus on key things depending on the stage. So when we go to the order, usually you want to start with marketing, and that's because we want to know the audience that we're starting with. So we want to be really, really clear. Who are we talking to? What is the problem that we're solving? And that is a marketing question. Then we want to move to sales. So ideally, you know the problem you're solving, you know who you're talking to, and then you can focus on understanding their particular pain points. And that's all sales really is actually understanding someone and helping them to be able to solve their problem. And once you help them solve their problem, the way they solve that problem is by exchanging money for the value that you offer. And then that comes into the product side of things. And we put product there because you could effectively start with a product, but we prefer that you actually sell a product that is imperfect, but it's sort of bolstered out with your time before you actually go and create all the bells and whistles behind a product. They talk about the minimum viable product, and the minimum viable product should basically just be your time with some idea of how you want to deliver it. And the product comes after the sale because then there's the iteration phase and the ability to iterate on that particular product. Then we have operations, which is essentially just how is that product delivered consistently. As you grow, it becomes more complex because one person isn't able to deliver that same thing. Typically, you'll be hiring people who aren't as expert as the one person who's delivering it, and so that's where systems become really important. And then there's the financial side of things. So how are we allocating the money that we do have to be able to hire more people, to be able to improve operational delivery, to market, to potentially sell, and just to get the systems that allow all these things to work well. And then, of course, the people. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory how we're hiring people. And we talk about that because they're all things that need to be focused on as we progress through. So just to quickly go over this, we don't get as many people in this 0 to 300K stage. However, if you are in this stage and you're just starting out and you're watching this, then this will be really useful for you. So for this stage from 0 to 300K, effectively it's when you're a freelancer or you're a one-man band, or you might have some contractors doing some work for you, but you're the main guy and they're doing the delivery. Guy or gal, I should say. And this is really the focus is becoming amazing at what you do and mastering the skill. As you can see here, this is just sort of a rough graph just to really picture it. It's the stages of learning, so going from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence and then mastery. And you don't effectively have to be a master to be able to make a business out of it, but that's sort of the process. Is you want to be really amazing at doing something and working out where the best work is being done. Where do you do your best work? Come up with, so once you start doing the work, you probably find that you do the same sort of things for the same type of clients really well, and you resonate with a particular type of client based on your skill sets. And that is sort of what we mean by the 80-20. And that's why it's really important to focus in on that 80-20, because once you're really good at one particular thing, then you can create a process around it. You can describe how you did it, why you did it. You can start to market towards those kind of people because they all have similar pain points. And also you can cater and tailor the service that you deliver to that person. So say, for example, if you cater to a really well-off person, then you'll be able to charge more and offer a more premium service where it might be done more quickly and you get more staff on board. You can offer more incentives with that, and it's going to be more of a hands-on, full-on approach to give them the ultimate solution, as opposed to a market that doesn't have as much money, but they have more demand for it. So you can offer something that's, potentially a bit lower on the service, but it's done and it takes longer, but you don't need as many people to deliver it, as an example. In terms of these key, the 6 functions of business in these stages, marketing, really just focus on word of mouth, referrals, testimonials. That's the thing that's going to drive it. Do an amazing job. That's all you should need to get to 300K. If you have to spend money on Facebook ads and external marketing at that stage, then either you've done it wrong and you haven't achieved product market fit and the product's not as good as it could be, or you're not as good as you could be. Effectively, there's some particular tactics that you can use to do marketing around having a really amazing offer, but effectively, until you have a particular product that serves a really specific need for someone and you're really clear on that, it's not worth doing much external marketing other than just having an amazing product. Sales really just comes down to belief in the product. That's why the founder usually sells really well. The lead quality is usually coming from referrals, so it's really high, and you're going to be undervalued in this stage. You're going to be not selling it for as high a value as you can, because if I was to tell you, look, I'm going to do 12 weeks of personal training with you, and you sort of in your head know that, I might be able to get you fit and lose some weight, versus, in 12 weeks, you can lose 10 kilos of fat and you can gain 2 kilos of muscle. And this is the exact process we're going to go through to get there. And I've done it before. Here's my examples. You can charge more for that because it's definite. And if you can put a guarantee behind that and say that I guarantee you'll get there, you pay me $5,000 now, but I guarantee you'll get there. And if you don't get there, then I'll give you every cent of that $5,000 back, because you're super confident that you can deliver that. Versus if you're just saying, it's 12 weeks of personal training and we'll get you fitter, then I guess it's harder to sell someone on that. So typically, you can charge 2, 3, 4 times more for a definite result. And that's what we like to work with when it comes to this side of things. We really want to nail a compelling offer so that it's easy for people to say yes. And there's some specific frameworks around that in terms of offering a definite process, having guarantees, having testimonials, having really sort of compelling things inside of the offer so that it is easy for people to sign up. When we look at the product, it really is just your service and your ability to execute the skill, finance, basically bookkeeping, balance sheets, things like that. Operations is just beginning to systemize, working out what you're doing best, and people is sort of going tactical, learning to outsource, finding freelancers. Now, the stage that we want to focus on mostly is this 300K to 1 to 3 million. So to talk to an example just quickly as well, this is a sort of process of iteration that comes from Justin Welsh, and he's really doing quite well on LinkedIn. And a lot of the way that he writes content is how we also write content within our agency and how we employ our sort of ghostwriters and copywriters to really effectively emulate. However, I wanted to just use this example really quickly because the digital course launch that he goes through, it's a really, really interesting insight, because effectively this is the simplified version of how to achieve this and how to get really solid product market fit in a really lean way. So firstly, it's the key is market feedback. So we're not wasting time. We're putting out the minimum viable product and we're getting feedback to iterate. That's where this beta group comes in. And this is the process we apply to improving someone's offering. So how do we know that the offering is compelling? We want to test it first. How do we test low ticket offer ideas? And how do we test lead magnets? So a lead magnet is something that we offer for free and it offers a really high amount of value. And the idea is that it's capturing someone's attention so that they bolster through the consideration phase, which typically is said that it would take about 7 hours or 23 touch points. And just to talk about the consideration phase, that's here. And it's quite difficult to move someone through this. Consideration really requires a fair bit of trust. And so that's where typically, as I said, 7 hours of content, they need to trust, know and like you as a person, and they also need to trust, know and like your service. And that's where having a lead magnet really comes into its own. And I'll do a separate video on that at another time to really explain how we do that. But effectively, this stage here, where we look at how to launch a digital course, it applies to all of these things as well. So firstly, we want to know what we're talking about. So that's where we spent basically here. We got really good at doing that side of things. So we could talk about it unprepared. We want to pre-sell it. So we want to get an idea of, okay, hey, like either you speak to someone directly or you put it out to an audience and you say, this is something that we're doing. Would you be interested? Focus on a key outcome, and we put a time boxing to 14 to 30 days. It's basically just putting a deadline on yourself to actually deliver it. Keep it really short, get a beta group, and then sort of ask for the testimonials. And that is a really nice way to describe the process of sort of going through the product lifecycle really quickly. And effectively, this process can actually be applied to how a lead magnet can be delivered, and that's typically an iteration of what we try to do. But with the product market fit and this stage of 300K to 1 to 3 million, it's really important to look at, okay, what are the things that are going to turn a business up to this stage? And the most important thing is that we want to achieve product market fit for one key product. So that's where we say, know your audience, know your problem that you're solving, know the channel that you're going to offer it on, know what the offer is, and really just double down onto that. So if you have your core business, the 20% of things that you get the best result for, the wealthy client who is willing to pay more for what you do for a premium type service, if you go in and do longer, but they're going to pay you 3 times as much because you also offer, a really great side of things for their whole entire service, and you do their house and they're able to pay more for that. And so you go more into that side of things. So that's where the key driver here is refining who you're working with and what you deliver best. So this is really important for, particularly businesses that are service-based. And when we see service-based businesses going through these stages, we understand that most of them are offering themselves as a commodity instead of a defined product result. And this is the key difference that we want to emphasize to most service-based businesses, is that know who it is that you're working with, know the problem that they have. So that's the key audience side of things here. So as we said, we're going through our one audience, and then we're going to really determine what the key problem that they're facing is. Let's take back to the sort of weight loss example. So it's like our one audience is a corporate executive. And that problem that they face is that they feel like they don't have the time to get into the gym and train as though the way their personal trainer used to tell them, which was you have to train an hour a day, you have to eat broccoli and chicken breasts to stay fit. And they realize, like, well, I go out a lot. I like to drink on a Friday. I don't have time to be in the gym that long. I travel a lot. I need to train in the hotel. What can you do for me? And so that's where the delivery of the service is going to be completely different. You might be able to provide a hotel room workout that wouldn't be useful for everyone, because most people are like, I want to work out in the gym. But for this particular corporate executive, you need to have a really robust corporate or holiday gym program. And then the same thing with eating. Not many people are going to be going out to nice restaurants, but this corporate executive, this really busy person, is going to need to be able to navigate that. And so all of the way that it's spoken about, the problems that they face, all of those things are going to be catered specifically towards that particular prospect. And that's where I'd put this term growth here. And this is what the crux of our agency is. We're a growth agency, because when you're going from sort of 300K to 1 to 3 million, it's best to think about growth or marketing and sales in terms of growth. They're both the same thing, because they come down, and this is a really big paradigm shift for a lot of people. The key to growth, the key to marketing and sales in this stage, is understanding your audience, understanding your prospects' pains, understanding them, the things they're going through, knowing them better than they know themselves. If you can articulate exactly everything they're experiencing, most people, for example, of the weight loss, they have a desire to be like a model would be, for example. A lot of people are going to be driven towards that, and that's sort of an innate thing for a lot of people. That's sort of a representation of health without going too far down into that rabbit hole. A lot of people are going to have that drive towards that, and so if you can articulate that feeling that they have within themselves that their body isn't as good as they want it to be, and this is just an example again, then you can really articulate the problems better than they can themselves, and you can articulate their thought process because you've worked with a lot of people like them and you understand what they're thinking, then all of the sales is done, all of the marketing is done. Because effectively, people do not buy because they understand. They buy because they feel understood. Everyone has the information required to get fit and healthy. Everyone has the information required to do most things, but they don't necessarily always take action because they don't feel like their situation is understood in that sense. And it doesn't necessarily apply exactly to their situation. There's a lot of things that come up that are barriers and objections. And so that is where really focusing in on that specific audience, getting really, really clear on that one problem that you're solving is so, so powerful, because what happens then is you go from being a commodity to being the only person that can deliver that result for that type of person. And there's always going to be psychographic factors. People are going to resonate more so with you than anyone else. But the real key is that you're resonating with a particular person and you're talking to the pain points that they're experiencing. And that allows you to sell better than anything, because sales is really just about understanding someone's pain points and helping you transfer belief to them that the process that you have is going to work. You've got clear documented proof that this process works for people like them. And the more that you do that, the more you focus on that one particular product, the less of a commodity you become, and the more of a particular result you become. And that's so crucial because you can charge more, you can get more people talking about you, you can effectively circumvent this full customer journey by getting people to be talking about what it is that you do. It's easier to retain people because you've done it before, you've been there, done that, and you really refine a solid product. And that's where understanding the size of your total addressable market and having product market fit really comes into play. And so that's why we say growth is the key thing at this stage. And we really want to focus on growth above all. So know your audience, know their one problem, know the one channel you're going to use, and the best way to determine that is where is your audience's attention and where can you do best. We always choose LinkedIn. And for full disclaimer, we execute on LinkedIn campaigns using all of these principles. So we design the strategy, we work with you to understand the prospect, and then we execute on LinkedIn in the best way to be seen and heard on LinkedIn, which is what we determine as a thought leader strategy. And again, that's a blend of direct outreach, so reaching out to people each week, a certain number, typically about 100, plus the actual posting of content, talking to all of these things. So it's the marketing funnel in action. And that's a done for you service that's able to scale as you grow. And that's the crux of how we design a scalable strategy. We are always looking to create a 10 times return on investment. Marketing should be about 10% spend of revenue over the long term. And that's a long-term strategy that we're aiming for, and it's really important to have that in mind. And one of the actions that we've got to scale any business up to a stage where you want it to be, understand what is 10% of your revenue and set this aside for marketing expenses. And if you don't have 10% of your revenue available, if it's being used up on other things, then over the long term, prices need to be adjusted, margins need to be adjusted so that you can invest in marketing, because marketing is an investment, and without marketing, a business will become stale and will not continue to grow. So that's effectively the growth stage that we like to focus on, and it's really down to nailing that channel, knowing the inputs, and the inputs is what are the things that you need to do to get a customer. So for LinkedIn, how many connection requests do we need to send out each week to get a certain number of people booking a call? So the way that we track that, and again, there'll be links to all of this, is using a KPI framework. So we've got KPI, so how many connection requests do we send out, how many people actually accept those, and then from that, how many people subscribe to the next stage of consideration, which is typically like a lead magnet or newsletter. How many of them then book a call, how many of those calls convert, how many of those people that get converted then go up to the next level of service, and then how many people go on to refer others to what we do. And that is knowing the inputs. So we need to know what activities we need to do based on our key channel to get us to where we need to be in terms of our growth goals. And again, it's 1 to 3 million, which is quite a variance because it depends on the market and the price that you're charging for the product. But again, product market fit really determines that we're having a product that's able to suit the market and it grows in and of itself and on its own. And that's the goal from this stage. And for some people, it might be they get to 10 million with this, no problem, because what they offer is a really high price point, but they're only, they're an expert at that particular thing and they've got a really good process around it. The numbers are just a rough guide. So the operations focus here is starting with systems and systemizing sort of the 8 core things to hire. Now, 8 is a finite number, and this comes from a book called Traction, and it's a really good operating system book that allows the simplification of the functions of business. Highly recommend reading it. But we talk about in operations, like there's going to be 8 core systems that allow a business to run as it does, and in particular a key core product will typically have 8 systems around it. So that's how it's marketed, how it's delivered, how people are hired for that, all those type of things. And getting really, really clear on what those 8 systems are to deliver the product is a real sort of core operational focus there. Because once you go beyond 3 million, then it becomes an issue of consistency in delivery. And really what we want to do for the product side of things is nail that customer journey, really get clear on that. Make it very efficient to service the customer's needs and pains. There's always going to be things that aren't needed or things that take longer than they should or not particularly smooth onboarding, and that's where you can hire someone in to make it quicker, to make it delivered quicker, to answer the prospect's questions. There's always going to be more questions and things like that need to be answered. And so those are all things that we want to install in the way that we work with the agency, and that's where, I shouldn't say the agency, but the businesses that we work with, that's where these numbers come in really handy. Because if we notice that, hey, look, you're only getting 50 or less than 50% of people that are actually ascending, going to the next stage, why is that? And we can test our assumptions, and that's where the numbers are really useful. In here, having people as a focus is just the organizational tree and keeping accountable to that. And then finally, for finance, it's knowing the profit, tracking, budgeting, determining, 30% of overheads go to wages and overhead. 30% of revenue, 10% of revenue goes to marketing. And again, these are all just rough guides that you'll find in most business textbooks, but we really want to get down on the business rigor in this stage because that is the thing that allows for things to scale, and that's the fundamental ability for us to scale a marketing strategy. And then when we go beyond this initial stage, so LinkedIn works really well. It's bringing in the numbers that we want. We know the offer's on point. We know that we have product market fit. Then we can scale up by looking at other channels. We can look at the size of the total addressable market. We can build a strategy that goes to other channels such as paid advertising, using funnels that we've created on our key channel. We can look at more sales because we really know the prospect and their lifestyle. We can master sort of upsells, cross-sells, direct partnerships, things like that. We have systems for generating feedback. We're able to get strategic partners. We've really got a clear documentation of those 8 core processes. We know the numbers. We've got a dashboard for the cost of acquisition, so it's easy for us to justify which channel to go to next. And then in terms of people, this is a leadership question really. And just to talk quickly about some of the terms from Traction, you've got your visionary, your integrator, you've got leadership material for the long term, and the people that are involved are incentivized to continue to grow as the business does. And really the key driver is learning to hire. And that's something that we want to work with the businesses that we work with on, because we know that to get beyond these certain stages, as we scale up a marketing strategy and start to expand out, these are all things that need to be addressed. So really the conclusion of this is that this is the power of focus. By focusing on the right things, depending on the stage that you're at, by firstly actually making sure that you deliver a product and that it's not just a commodity, that you separate yourself out and you really know the core audience that you're working with, you'll be able to really make the most of what we call relationship-based marketing and what we deliver. And effectively, if you're at 0 to 300K, then just get really good at what you do and determine who you do your best work with. And then find that one channel, find that one audience, find that one product, and get really good at solving that pain point. So as I said, all of these resources are going to be in the link to the description. You'll be able to get all of those in the description. And yeah, we really look forward to. If you want to reach out at all, please do. I'd love to help execute on all of this stuff. And if what we do is a great fit for you, great. If not, our mission is to help as many entrepreneurs as possible have the impact that they want. We're all about impact. That's our bigger vision. And we want to sort of change the world through entrepreneurship. So that's what we're all about. And we hope that's really been useful for you.